Welcome to Chapter 3 of our Oracle FLEXCUBE Retail Lending Series. This is Part 2 UDE Value Maintenance for Loans, covering Section 3.4. In this video, we'll understand UDE Rules, UDE Values, and the UDE Cascade Function. What is UDE Value Maintenance? Section 3.4 focuses on UDE Value Maintenance for Loans. It is divided into three sections. First, defining UDE rules. Second, providing UDE values. And third, applying the UDE Cascade Function. These three activities together define how UDE values are maintained and applied in retail lending. The manual explicitly identifies these three subsections. What is a UDE? UDE stands for User-Defined Element. In the Retail Lending Guide, UDEs include entities such as interest rates, an amount, or tier slabs. Their values can be maintained with different effective dates. For example, an interest rate can be maintained at 5% from a particular date, and a higher rate can become effective at a later date. UDEs product to account. UDEs themselves are defined at the product level. The actual values are maintained in the UDE Values screen for a combination of product, currency, UDE rule, and effective date. These values are then defaulted at the account level. The manual also states that account-specific values can override the defaulted values. How UDE rules work. UDE rules determine which UDE values will be picked up at the account level. These rules are conditional expressions built using system data elements, or SDEs. The manual gives examples such as loan amount, tenor, rate, and customer category. So the basic flow is SDEs create the conditions. Conditions form the UDE rule. And the rule helps determine the applicable UDE value. Defining UDE rules. We now move to Section 3.4.1, defining UDE rules. The UDE Rules screen is accessed using function ID _. Rules can be created independently and later attached while maintaining UDE values. Multiple rules can also be associated with UDE values specified for each rule. Rule code. Each UDE rule is identified by a unique rule code. According to the manual, the rule code can contain a maximum of 4 alphanumeric characters. This field is mandatory for saving the UDE rule. Building the UDE Rule Condition. A UDE rule is built using fields, operators, logical operators, and values. The fields are based on system data elements, or SDEs. FLEXCUBE provides comparison operators such as equal to, greater than, less than like, and not equal to. Logical operators such as and, or can be used to combine conditions. The value specifies what the selected condition is evaluated against. Multiple UDE rules. UDE rules can be created independently. These rules can later be associated while maintaining UDE values. A UDE value can then be specified for each associated rule. This means that multiple rules can be maintained and used as part of the UDE value configuration for a product. Providing UDE values. Now we move to Section 3.4.2, providing UDE values. The actual UDE values are maintained for a combination of product, currency, UDE rule, and effective date. This is where the actual value associated with the UDE configuration is provided. Effective date. The effective date determines when a particular UDE value becomes applicable. Different values can be maintained for different effective dates. For example, one UDE value can be effective from an earlier date, and another value can become effective from a later date. This allows the system to maintain values that change over time. UDE ID and UDE value. When maintaining UDE values, the UDEs defined for the selected product are displayed. The applicable UDE value is then maintained for the corresponding UDE. The value is subject to the limits maintained for the UDE linked to the product. This ensures that the value entered falls within the configured range. Rate code. A rate code can be associated with a UDE when a floating interest rate is required. The applicable rate code is selected from the floating rate code definition. The UDE value represents the spread against the rate code. For example, the manual illustrates a 5% rate with a positive 2% spread, resulting in an applicable interest rate of 7%. With a negative 2% spread, the applicable interest would instead be 3%. The positive and negative spread examples are explicitly described in the manual. Code usage. Code usage applies when a rate code is associated with a UDE. There are two options. Automatic means the rates are refreshed whenever a rate change occurs, and the rates are reapplied to the loans. Periodic means the rates are refreshed according to the rate revision schedule maintained at the component level. The manual also states that specifying rate code usage is mandatory when a rate code is maintained. UDE Currency. For an amount type UDE, the currency of the UDE is captured. If the UDE needs to be maintained in a currency different from the loan currency, the values are maintained separately for each currency. At the time of loan creation, the value defined for the UDE currency is picked up and displayed in the UDE value field after conversion into the equivalent loan currency. UDE Cascade. Now we move to section 3.4.3, applying the UDE Cascade Function. UDE values can be changed even after accounts have been created under the product. If Cascade is selected as yes, the change becomes applicable to all existing accounts under the product. If the change is not cascaded, the new UDE values become applicable only to accounts created after the change. UDE Cascade Function. The UDE Cascade screen is used to define new UDE values for existing accounts under a product. The function ID is called up. The cascade process applies the changed UDE values to existing accounts. New accounts created under the product continue to pick up UDE values according to the specifications maintained in the UDE Values screen. UDE Cascade Key Fields. The UDE Cascade screen captures several important fields. Reference is generated automatically by the system after the UDE Cascade function is saved. Branch code identifies the branch in which the relevant data is maintained. CCY code is the currency maintained for the product in which the UDE value is applied. And the function used to invoke the screen is called up. UDE Configuration Flow. Let's put the complete UDE configuration flow together. First, UDEs are defined at the product level. Second, we define the UDE rule using SDE-based conditions. Third, we maintain the UDE value for product, currency, rule, and effective date. Fourth, these values are defaulted at the account level. And finally, when required for existing accounts, the UDE Cascade function can be used. So remember this sequence. UDE Rule Value Account Cascade. Recap and what's next. Let's quickly recap what we covered in Chapter 3, Part 2. We started with UDE definition and UDE rules. Then we looked at SDE-based conditions and UDE values. We covered effective dates, rate code and code usage, and UDE currency. Finally, we understood UDE Cascade and how changed UDE values can be applied to existing accounts. That brings us to the end of Part 2. In the next part, we'll continue our Oracle FLEXCUBE retail lending journey with the next topic in Chapter 3. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.